Welcome to the show, y'all. Welcome to the show, y'all. It's the Greg Davis Show. We gon' talk the talk, so get ready. We came to push the call, educating. So just lock that down and keep it steady. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. Everything is alright. We're gonna help you get your life. It's the Greg Davis Show.
Welcome to the Greg Davis Show. I'm Greg Davis. This is the day the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. It's a good day to be alive. Don't touch that dial because we have a wonderful show for you today. We're going to be talking about the movement, and we have a great guest to talk about the movement, the civil rights movement, what it's doing now. Is it relevant? Is it irrelevant? We're going to talk about Selma then and Selma now. Today with me is my friend and my brother, a man who pastors a great church in Baltimore, Maryland, and also now is heading up the empowerment movement. He's pastor of Empowerment Temple, and he's here today, my friend and brother, Dr. Jamal Bryant. Hey, sir.
Bishop.
Yes, sir. Welcome.
I got to update my resume. I've made it to the Impact Network.
You made it to the Greg Davis Show, too.
Thank you. And the Greg Davis Show.
I've been here 3 years. I couldn't believe when you told me you've not been here.
Never.
Wow.
I'm taking off my shoes. I'm on holy ground.
Well, we gave you the whole show.
There.
I put Lola off and everything, just me and you.
Thank you.
Now, thank you, first of all, for the great job you did. You took over my show. You took it for a whole Saturday night.
Thank you.
And you did a great job with it.
Thank you.
In Ferguson. I saw Selma, as I hope many did. Very good movement, very good movie, centered around blacks and the right to vote. But few are still voting. Many died for the right to vote. Why are still so few of our people voting?
I think it really is reflective, Bishop, of what's taking place in Ferguson. Ferguson is 76% African American, but they have a police force of 43, and of that 43, only 3 are minorities. Absolutely nobody of color on the school board, absolutely nobody of color in city council. And the question was asked of them, how come you all just didn't vote these people out of office? And they said what the collective consensus is of our people is they didn't feel like it made a difference or they would have an impact. And I think that we've got to go right back to the basics, not voting around personality, but around principles.
But I think in many cases, though, Jamal, people don't believe in the process. How can you get them to buy into the process and that the process really works?
They believed in the process in part. Here's the point that I bring up, Bishop, is that they waited from August the 5th when Michael Brown was killed all the way to the week before Thanksgiving for the grand jury. If in fact you don't believe in process, why not be upset August, September, October? You waited until the week before Thanksgiving for the grand jury to come back, which says somebody paid attention in civic class and you understood due process. But you can't get involved at the end of the matter if you don't deal with the front of the matter. And the reality is you cannot be a juror if you are not registered to vote. And so everybody can get t-shirts printed and do marches and die in, but if you're not at the beginning of the process, you'll be online watching the revolution happen.
But do they believe in the process of voting is what I'm saying? Because I've heard so many that are on television saying the process don't work. We vote and it still don't work. Look what we had. How do you get them to believe in the process
when
of voting?
When you realize that the Democratic Party will be indebted to the African American community because we came out both elections for President Obama. Had we not come out in those strong numbers, then it would have just been, I believe, it would have never been a reality. We come out when there's a crisis or when there is a campaign in which we can identify with. And too much of our voting is connected to a personality. Do we know that person and not the principles? One of the keys of Selma that you're raising is that they didn't talk about any person who was running for office. They were talking about the privilege of voting by itself.
We live in Selma through Ferguson, New York, and Cleveland. Those are 3 hotbeds that we just saw over the last 6 months. Is that our Selma? Is that our modern day Selma?
I think Ferguson is. There's not been a sustainable movement at the time of our taping this. We're at 142 days. In my lifetime, I've not seen anything to take place that has had this kind of sustainability. The closest thing would have been the Jena 6 that took place in Louisiana for about 4 to 6 weeks. But to go from summer to fall to winter, and we headed into spring, and they're still out there tonight, is a real sustainable movement.
The only reason why we know they're out there tonight is because you said it, because that's my next point. The news media has went home. They've moved on to international news, ISIS, and various things. We faded to black. We're not in Ferguson. So how do we keep that alive in the grassroots?
It's in the grassroots. The Ferguson movement, as it were, was never precipitated by mass media. It happened together by Twitter and Instagram. And so the people who are in that interlocking network are still on the ground. If you can imagine, Bishop, that they pulled together 100,000 people in New York with a 5-day notice. Both of us come out of church, reformations, denominations. It takes us a year to plan for 10,000 people to come. For them to be able to assemble 100,000 so that they're moving unconventionally in ways that we've not seen before.
So social media is where the revolution is taking place?
Absolutely. It's not, for us to leave out of here tonight and go to whatever church, we got to meet about the meeting. What's happening through Twitter is meet me in 1 hour. And the organic movement is that there is no election of officers, there's no color coordination. They're moving organically, but they got to make that next step, or else we'll be back at the Occupy movement. The Occupy movement shut down Wall Street, dealing with the 99% being ignored, the 1% handling all of the wealth in the country, but it had no sustainability because there was no voice. And our people have to move under leadership.
What's different about the days of Selma and the days of Ferguson with the people? It seems like our young men nowadays, they don't mind dying. They don't mind coming up against the police. They're just in a daze. What's different? Here's
the distinctive difference between Selma and Ferguson. Ferguson represents for us the very first time in the history of black people a movement not led by the church. From Nat Turner to Ferguson, there's never been a movement our people have been a part of where the church wasn't on the front line.
Okay, stay right there, because that's one of the, is that good or bad?
It's bad because the church is running, trying to figure out what do we do. So we're seeing young people who we can't get into the junior usher board, into the choir, into the youth and young adult ministries, saying we want to be a part of something, we just don't want to be a part of what you all are doing. So it's a wake-up call for us that we've slipped into cruise control, fallen into a coma, and the community is saying, where are you?
So what can we do as the church? Because you represent both sides. I mean, you have Empowerment Temple, but you're also the new movement we're going to talk about in the second segment, Empowerment Movement. How can we bring the two together? How can we get it back? Martin started in the pulpit.
Right. Is that realizing one, we can't lead it. How can we support it? These young people have been here for 150 days or so. How can we show up now and say this is ours? It's not ours. So how can we open up our doors to these young people saying we want to help support you, undergird you, finance you, and push you. You can use our church to meet, but we've got to go out into the street corner. We can't do it from behind stained glass.
You said something very key. It's not ours. So is that the reluctancy of many preachers because they don't own it? They can't control it.
Yeah, because a pastor doesn't know how to mobilize if there's not a portion for a speaker. There's nobody speaking at the rally. And Reverend Dr. So-and-so got his 2 or 3 minutes first giving honor to God. And it's not that. It's the mobilized mass coming across the Red Sea. As I said to the pastors in Ferguson, there was no press conference going across the Red Sea. He just lifted up his hand and now forward march. And we've got to be at the place. Can you lift up your hands and walk with the group?
So because there are no speakers, we don't know what to do, and we're not accustomed accustomed to not speaking.
Right.
So you're saying that's the issue. We want to speak, and they're saying we don't need to speak. We just need to march.
Can we move in silence? And this is the greatest call of discipline for the black church. Can you move without saying anything? And it brings us back around that Jericho wall that you got to walk and not say until you get the order. And that's our call to discipline right now, is to move in silence until God gives us the order.
Let's talk about the 2 police officers in New York.
Yes.
Did it hurt us? Because again, he was mentally deranged.
Yes.
Of course, the news media spins it the way they want to spin it. They mention that very subtly.
Yes.
Did it hurt us? More so? Did it help? Did it hurt the movement?
I think it hurt those who weren't grounded. Nowhere in the movement, from Staten Island to Ferguson or even down to Sanford, Florida, was there a nationalist call of screw the police, shoot the police, kill the police. This hasn't been that Black Panther mantra. So they put blood on our hands that we did not spill. And so I think that this gives us an incredible time to forge our philosophy and to speak what are our marching points as we go forward.
When we come back, we want to talk about your new movement. We also want to talk about how can we keep social injustice in the forefront. What can we do? And what can we do more about our black young men to galvanize them, and jobs?
Yes.
And what you're doing. When we come back on the Greg Davis Show, Jamal Bryant is going to continue to be with us in the second half. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Book today by Bishop Greg Davis.
Bishop Davis shares his amazing story of dramatic weight loss,
Overcoming diabetes,
and his new journey to healthy living without surgery, dieting, or medication.
How I Did It. An incredible weight loss story captured in less than 50
It
pages.
tells the bishop's testimony of his lifestyle change after being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes in April 2010.
In less than 8 months, he lost over 80 pounds and was completely healed of diabetes.
To date, he has lost over 110 pounds and feels phenomenal.
How I Did It by Bishop Davis.
A personal testimony requested by people all over the country.
He did it, and so can you. Order your copy now.
On Amazon.com.
Or send a seed of $25, which includes shipping and handling too.
Greg Davis Ministry, P.O. Box 44072, Detroit, Michigan 48244.
That's Greg Davis Ministry, P.O. Box 44072, Detroit, Michigan 48244.
Welcome back to the Greg Davis Show. Do go get the book, How I Did It. I want to keep that at your forefront. You made all those resolutions and you're kind of getting weak right now. So I need to encourage you through my book, How I Did It. And you can definitely go to Amazon. Again, I'm holding Dr. Bryant at 110 pounds down.
Wow.
I'm holding. How's your journey coming?
Man, I'm coming. I started doing Bikram yoga, and it's changed my life. I'm taking you in the morning.
What is that?
I'm taking you got to get in the hot room, and
how many degrees?
I think it's 96.
You're losing from it?
Yeah. And then it's stretching you.
Meditation too.
It is.
You're closer to the Lord and all that. Yeah.
The Lord is what I need to get close to.
Yeah, I'm proud of you. I want to see the outcome at the see what the end's gonna be.
All right.
How can we keep social injustice in the forefront on a daily basis and not just when there's fire?
The black church has always been our beacon light or satellite, as it were, to what was taking place in the community. For the last 25 years, we've shifted from social justice to personal attainment on what it is that I can get. So we preach, the preaching shifted from community advancement to my car, my house, debt free. And I think that you're getting ready to see a shifting going back to the good of the whole and not the blessing of the some. And I think that our pastors and preachers are going to have to go back to that kind of liberation gospel.
When we talk about Martin Luther King, there's not been another. Will there ever be? Is there somebody in the waiting? Or do we need it?
I think that God always creates a personality for that time. There's never going to be a Malcolm X again. There'll never be another Marcus Garvey. You've got to be open for what it is that God does new. God doesn't believe in cloning. He always does something fresh and original for the time that it is.
Going back to the church, You know, as I said earlier, we saw in the movie Selma, everything was done from the pulpit. They met in the church. How can the church galvanize in each community, whether it be a storefront, whether it be a cathedral? What can each church do at this time for social injustice?
Let me tell you, Bishop, one of the critical parts of that movie Selma that convicted me, and it's a small subtlety, and when I say it to you, the light bulb is going to go off. The critical part that I realized my generation is missing is when they got to the top of the Edmund Pettus Bridge.
Yes, sir. I know where
and then he got on his knees and prayed.
Yes, sir.
And prayed publicly.
Yes, sir.
I think what has shifted, or the void in the present day civil rights movement, is that there is acts of defiance, but not acts of faith. And I think that what the world needs to see is, how do we practice our faith? Not how do we talk about our faith or defend the faith, but how do we practice our faith? And I think going from a die-in to a kneel-in is really going to be significant for us.
How do we bring, and you're going to like this question because I'm subtly going into what you're about to do. How do we bring clergy, officials, business owners, community leaders together to address best practices in the area of economics, social justice, labor unions, engagement of media, and politics and strategies for 2016?
Bishop, there's got to be a call for it. It's got to be different than us just having morning glory, midday manna, and the late night musical. It's got to be something with a strategic agenda. February, I'm bringing a group of leaders from across the country, not just pastors, but Bishop is a whole nother kind of wavelength to meet with representative of Walmart workers. What can we do to support you who are not getting even minimum wage to sustain your families? Having a delegation to come in and meet with this group from Cuba to meet with pastors on, once these floodgates open, what can we do to establish churches in Cuba? What can we do for economic development? If we're talking about 114 HBCUs that were predominantly birthed in the basement of black churches, and 90 of them are in danger of closing, what can the church do to sustain them? And so it's got to be more than turn to your neighbor, but what is the strategic agenda? And so I'm in the process now bringing critical thinkers to the table to really set up an agenda on how it is that we can move going towards 2016.
What's going to be the takeaway?
The takeaway is going to be an economic agenda. It's going to be what it is that you've talked about, a voter registration initiative going into the presidential election of 2016, a real youth component, as well as what can we do for global thinking. You could not have a meeting of Jewish rabbis and not talk about Israel. But black churches, black denominations have been meeting with no Africa agenda. And I think that we've got to, in fact, bring that to the table.
When we talk about 2016, 6 years ago, everybody was excited. As we record this program, 6 years now, we just had the State of the Union address, and everyone was excited because here's the possibility of a black man, African American, being president.
Yes.
Again, personality driven, based upon our first black man. So what will be the excitement this time? Because he can't run again. We got him reelected. How can we get them excited for 2016? Is it going to be Hillary because it's a woman, or what?
I think that the counter voices are going to expose themselves. We were at a disadvantage as a movement because it's hard to protest Pharaoh when he looks like Moses. So we didn't know how to go there without feeling like, are we selling out? Give the brother a chance. But I think all gloves are going to be off and the bets are going to be high and the stakes are going to be all or nothing when you hear what's getting ready to come down the pipe.
What if you could grade, and I don't mean to get you in trouble, if you could grade the last 6 years, of President Obama, what kind of grade would you give him?
As a person who went all through high school, never hitting honor roll until I got to college, I'd have to give him B because I think what people undercount is that he was thrown in the remedial class in the middle of summer school. We were in a recession. We were in the middle of 2 wars. Gas prices were through the roof. Morale was in the toilet. Our universal governmental prestige had become lackluster. So everything that he had to fight up against, I got to give him a B. I wish there was some other areas that he would have done higher in, but with everything.
What are some of those areas? I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Yeah, no. In terms of urban renewal, there isn't any way Hillary Clinton is going to run without a clear woman's agenda. Women are going to be fired up. Barack Obama was so busy being president of all that he tried to hide, I'm not just president of black people, I'm just president of all.
Okay, go ahead and say he wasn't black enough. That's what people are saying. He's not black enough.
He may have been black. I needed him to be patent leather. I needed to be black and shiny. I needed to be more than that. I didn't need just symbolic, but something really substantive.
Yeah, he could have done more for us.
Right. If you look at, and I vehemently speak against the killing of the 2 police officers in New York, but the vice president nor the president went to the funeral of Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Tamir Rice. None of them had official White House representation. And so I think if we had that same kind of level, it should be a national dialogue and discussion right now.
But is it because walking into those kind of situations, it would have been said, see, told you, that's all he's for. He's for the black people. So is that
why is that a sin? Why?
Because he's the president.
Jeremiah Wright has
He's the president of everybody.
I understand, and as he is the president of the police, he is also president of the oppressed. So if in fact you are president to everybody, representing all of the black men who have been marginalized and stuffed down the prison pipeline, go for that family.
Because you don't have to run again.
You don't have to run again. You got nothing
do
to lose.
whatever you want to do.
As you announced in the State of the Union, you run both of them.
Yeah.
So at this point, let it all hang out. Wear a pair of Calcanais and flip-flops and Timberlands and wear a do-rag and say, I'm with y'all. But whatever you got.
You make it up for every year you ain't been here.
Yeah, this is it. This is the last 18 months. Yeah. Let it be all or nothing.
Yeah. We're talking to Jamal Bryant. I want to know about the empowerment movement. What is it?
Yes.
What is the plan? What is the vision? Is this another NAACP? You know, I'm going all the way since you ain't been here.
Yeah, let's go.
What is it?
It's really a hybrid of the NAACP, SCLC, which is the organization Dr. King started, and the Black Panther Party, which really had...
And the Black Panther Party.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Which was community involvement. J. Edgar Hoover in 1970 said the greatest threat to American democracy was the Black Panther Party. His was amazing, Bishop Davis, is that at the time that he said it, the Black Panther Party only had 300 paid members. How is 300 people the greatest threat to American democracy, and now we've got mega churches that aren't even a threat to their city? They were a threat. Why? Because they were feeding the kids, patrolling the community, educating themselves, and being armed with the Constitution. I think that if we merge those with the power of prayer of the black church and the organization of the NAACP, civil rights will never be the same again.
And so what are some of the initiatives, the platform for empowerment?
One is dealing with economic development. 53% of African Americans' wealth was plummeted just because of real estate. If we drive out of the studio and go for 2 blocks, we would see where there's a banner. In New Orleans, where you've got vast experience, in New Orleans, the mayor of New Orleans has done something critical I want to push across the country. New Orleans, January 1, did something that ought to be a hallmark. No veterans in New Orleans are homeless. They've taken all the veterans out of the homeless shelters, given them some of the houses that were abandoned after Hurricane Katrina, and Bishop, here's the key, gave them the deed to the house. It is not public housing. What will you do to house your own? In Baltimore, where it is that I live and pastor, 16,000 abandoned homes. There should be no homeless people. So here's what I want to look at us doing is, if you can imagine, Bishop, right here in Detroit, do solar paneling in Detroit. It's a wide open market. You teach these young kids from the inner city who are not going to college, not interested in college, do solar paneling in all of these homes on 8 Mile and show them how it is that you can get that done. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry that there is no footprint of it in urban cities. Second thing is, what can we do for these failing HBCUs that we bring Du Bois and Booker T together? That everybody doesn't have a mind for college, but everybody can learn a trade. Everybody can do something that is marketable. The third thing is, what can we do for community advancement? As seeing community watch groups, that we would have what we've started practicing in Baltimore, where black men are standing on the corners of elementary and middle schools, walking the kids to school and from school. Many of these children never see a man until they get to gym class. But infiltrating these men as a part of the community, not just in the court, but as a part of the larger community.
What can the viewers that are watching all over the country now do to assist? They like what they're hearing, something fresh, even those that are younger. What can they do to support this?
Yes.
Financially, or just be there for you? What to come together?
The very first thing the watchers can do is call this network and demand, Bishop Davis, bring me back on. I don't want to put the horse in front of the cart in front of the horse before we have the first meeting on what it is that we're voting on, what are our action items, and I don't want to preempt them. So I'd be glad, Bishop, to come back and direct them to the website and what it is that we're doing as these initiatives. But I want to wait until I've got consensus from the group.
I've been invited to the meeting too, and I'm honored. Thank you so much.
Please, now make sure you show up.
Let me be a thinker, you know. Probably gonna be a listener. What's going on in this last minute and a half with Empowerment Temple, your church and your ministry and all that?
Bishop, we're getting ready to expand and build. We're going to close on a new piece of property March the 31st. So I'm excited about breaking ground on a youth center and on a senior center. As a small fact, I want to say to all pastors, every day in America, 50,000 people turn 65. Every day in America, 50,000 people in America turn 65. And a lot of our churches have a youth program, but not a senior program. The fastest growing demographic is going to be our seniors, and we're going to have to do something to minister to them.
Thank you so much, sir. As always, you have enlightened us, and also, if I'm going to use this word with my friend, entertained us.
Yes, I'm glad to be in the service. I appreciate it.
Jamal Bryant, go to his website, the same name, and hit him up and let him know that you enjoyed him. Hit us up on social media. You can find him also, his information on the screen. I'm Greg Davis. We will see you next time on The Greg Davis Show.